thevoice.com.
To grow.
Friends and you.
Mr. Jacoby.
Good afternoon, Ms.
Obi-Wan
Rachel.
Jacoby.
It has been as Elvis would say, my boys, it's been a while. We have not been on the air for a few weeks. And off and on, and we're off again next week for Jazz at the Ranch with Los Lobos.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Oh, my God, I can't
tickets
believe
are available at Rancho Cielo YC, as in Youth Campus. .org.
What an amazing opportunity, and so close to home.
Not only is it close to home, it's close to the stage because it's like 9 rows.
I know,
it's
so crazy.
300 people.
I know.
And we do have a few ducats left, and we'd love to see you there.
What will there be? I mean, not to.
And the food's included.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it's like you're
food.
in here.
I am in your brain.
It's like you're in, which is a scary place to be. Don't look around too much. It's pretty scary in there.
There's plenty of room.
I would be, yeah. No, it's cavernous, yeah.
It is. It's you're what? Actually, my daughter Kate's here, and her wonder dog Olive, who is actually a canine squeeze toy.
She's so
She'll start
cute.
yelping soon. But I was when I give you facts and things to remember.
Yeah,
I always get the image of the last scene in Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah,
where it's the warehouse where the forklift.
Oh yeah, you got to go find it.
That's right.
Yeah,
where are those things?
Yeah, it can take a while to get. It's in storage.
Welcome to Raising the Standards. Good show today. We will talk to our very, very good friends Jeff Idelson and Gene Fruth from Grassroots Baseball, who have a new book and a documentary called See Her, Be Her, which is about women in baseball. And it's actually going to run on MLB Network.
So cool.
Between Game 1 and Game 3 of the World Series.
No way.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's exciting.
What a neat deal.
Yeah. We were looking at the press release, and it just looks spectacular.
Yeah.
Billie Jean King, whom I didn't know her first sport was baseball.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting. Anyway, so we'll talk to them in just a couple of minutes. Talk to our friend John Fitzpatrick, who is the concierge. We've talked to many times about the Big Easy in New Orleans. I suppose that's redundant. And talk about the Eliza Jane Hotel, which is this extraordinarily hip hotel, and what can only be described as a remarkable coincidence. The lovely and talented Mrs. Jacoby and I will be staying there in December.
Interesting.
Who would have thought?
That is so interesting.
My Lord, isn't that something?
It's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what's up in your world?
Not a lot.
Not
a lot.
Just doing the law school thing?
I'm just in school, I'm just kind of, just trying to make it happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
So, now how much longer have you got?
Oh,
actually, I was just asking my doctor.
It's a really long
time.
How much
longer have I got?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a long time.
Yeah, we got.
You got a long time, too.
We will have we'll have Dr. John Clark on 2 weeks from today.
Okay, good.
And he's got some splaining to do.
Oh, does he? Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Got it.
What else is going on? You Binging anything? Or is it still
No, I'm not binging.
Housewives of Watsonville, or what is it?
Well, I'm always on. I love my Bravo. I mean, that's kind of I have to check out sometimes. I mean, talk about a cavernous space with not a lot going on. But it's actually kind of comforting to hear people complain about things that are so
Inane.
Yeah.
So how does and on the 16th
Wait,
on this? Go ahead.
hang on. What about The Penguin? Are you watching that?
No, and I've heard great.
Okay.
Katie, you watching The Penguin?
Okay, I watched The Penguin.
Is it great?
It's great, and you
Colin-
would never know that it's Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks totally different.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him. It's like 6 hours.
And you know what? My boyfriend made a really good point. He was saying, I've never really liked Colin Farrell, but I like him in this because he's actually he's really in acting. He's playing a real part.
I just got a message from our buddy Jeff, and it says all circuits are busy.
Oh, let's try again.
So I'll tell him to try it.
We'll
again.
reload this puppy.
Try again.
God, I haven't heard that in a while. All circuits are busy.
Yeah, otherwise, try again, or otherwise, should I tell him to call my phone?
Tell him to give it I'm resetting it, so tell him to give it 10 seconds.
A minute.
Maybe a minute.
Right.
Yeah, okay, it should be good.
Okay. Anyway. So,
there he is.
There he is. Just that easy. So let's do it. Anyway, the tournament, the Jacoby 44 went
Tell
well.
me. Oh, good.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Work.
With us on the line, hopefully both the lovely couple are with us. Our buddy Jeff Idelson and Gene Fruth. Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing great. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Michael and Rachel.
How are you doing?
Well, we're delighted to hear from
you.
We're delighted to hear from you guys, and we have baseball. We're in. I know the networks are half happy that they've got the Dodgers, and hopefully soon the networks and myself will be happy, and we'll might well end up with a Yankee Dodger series, which will be fun, or a Subway series. I can live with too. Anyway. So it's kind of sad that Pete Rose passed away a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's sort of a tragic figure, Michael and Rachel. Obviously, a lot of history there, but there's no denying he had more hits than any other major league player, and just the demons he had for his addiction to gambling kept him out of the Hall of Fame, but doesn't take away from all those hits he had.
Absolutely not, and sadly, the over/under on his age was 84, and he'd bet over, so that's a terrible joke. Anyway, you guys, grassroots baseball just keeps moving on, and you guys are such a blessing to the game itself, what you've done in the last few years. And now you have a project that you're producing. Are you producing or is Gene producing it?
No, Gene is the director and producer.
Director and producer. Gene's going to, you're going to video now,
Jeff
not
is
just
a
still.
producer. Yeah, crazy to go to video.
Yeah.
But Jeff is producing, and he has been an incredible producer. It's pretty amazing. Besides his love for the game for this many years.
Yeah, you had to make him
transitioning
an
to this.
associate producer because he loves business cards. The documentary is called See Her, Be Her. And I hesitate to say this because it's so much more, but it's about women in baseball. But my Lord, it is delves into the lives of these women that you have. There's 7 women you're following. Talk a little bit about them and where they're from.
You go, Gene.
Yeah, well, the 7 women, we are telling the story of women in baseball, but really focusing on 7 women in the United States, Canada, Cuba, Puerto Rico, South Korea, Japan, and Uganda. And yes, women play baseball in Uganda. And it all culminates with the World Cup, Women's World Cup, Baseball Cup. And the documentary, these women, I mean, they're at the top of their game, and they're playing a very high level of baseball. And there's 25 countries that have national teams, and they play for their countries, except for Uganda is trying to create a national team, and I believe they will. But their stories are incredible, and they're women who are faced a lot of adversity and a lot of challenges to get to where they are and to play at this highest level. And so we're making this film and we're creating visibility for them, and the hope is that they get more opportunities in the future. Women's sports is exploding, and so it's really good timing to shine a light on women's baseball.
Now, Jean, you are I will say this because you won't, but you're the preeminent photographer in the game. Did you play baseball as a little girl?
I did not. I was a Mets fan growing up. My grandpa listened to Mets games on the radio. We really grew up as a hockey family. Mm-hmm. But later, when I was shooting sports, I was also coaching my son's Little League team. And I fell in love with baseball through Little League. And, I shot all sports, but really, baseball is very special to me. It's just, I shot a lot of football, I shot the NFL, but baseball just has, as you know, and as certainly Jeff knows, connects generations, and there's so many stories to tell. So my love for baseball is everything around the game, besides game action, of course,
now,
as well.
How daunting is it? Did you do a lot of video when you in your career, or how daunting is it to go from still to video?
I still took stills, and we have a book that's coming out with the film. So the book's actually landing this week, so it'll be available. And it's See Her, Be Her. It's a companion book to the film. So I shot stills for the video, and we had a very talented cinematographer work with us all the way through the project. So I was directing, and I was doing the interviews. As a woman in baseball, I did all the interviews, interviewing all the women for the project. So, but it is daunting to work in video, and I learned a lot, through not only how we wanted shot, but luckily the cinematographer, we really synced, and we just did really well together with our same kind of passion and our same kind of vision. We both love to chase light, and so it really did work well with him because we wanted to shoot in the same way, and we made a beautiful film and a cinematic film and told the story.
Now, Jeff, was this somewhat an epiphany for you? I mean, I know when you ran the Hall of Fame, women displays started to become more part of the hall. But, it's needless to say a whole lot more than the one movie, League of Their Own. There's such a rich heritage of women's baseball in this country. Was there a lot of stuff you didn't know going into this project, Jeff?
Oh, big time, Michael. I mean, definitely an epiphany of understanding the global footprint of women's baseball. I was certainly attuned to what was going on in the U.S., the history of the AAG, PBL, and further back, and the steps that were being made, the progress that was being made with the Katie Burnells, the Monet Davises, and the younger generation of players in the last 10 or 15 years that were starting to make a name for girls' baseball and women's baseball. But understanding the depth of how strong it is globally, Michael, was really an eye-opener. And Jean mentioned several countries, Korea, Japan, Canada, where the women's game is huge. It's absolutely huge. And as an example, there's 28,000 girls who play across all 10 provinces in Canada. There's 2,500 women coaches, 500 women umpires, and the game keeps growing. Korea's got 50 leagues plus of women's teams. And in Japan, they start all girls teams in junior high school. And the epiphany was realizing that, the U.S. can catch up to that quite easily with a spotlight being put on the sport. And so that was Jean and my objective. The game is being played, and the opportunities need to grow.
Now, Rachel, when you were growing up and when you weren't fielding all the requests to join somebody for a prom.
Yeah, right.
Did you play? You played sports as a kid.
I did. Well, yeah, not a lot of organized, mostly individual, like swimming and stuff like that. But I played a little soccer. I wasn't really that great. I mean, basketball, volleyball, that kind of stuff. But I always loved watching. My uncle was really into softball, and he always loved putting on girls softball because he was so impressed by the underhand pitch. So I watched a lot of it with him growing up, and that was pretty cool, definitely.
Let's make this very clear. This is not that there's anything wrong with softball, but this is the real deal.
This is baseball.
Are there professional leagues, guys, in Canada?
There are not. There were two professional leagues in Japan, but right now they've got a new league they're starting there. The most recent one folded during COVID, but now what they have is an interesting model where there are three signature franchises, Michael and Rachel, the Yomiuri Giants, the Hanshin Tigers, and the Seibu Lions, that all have women's teams that are affiliated with them, and their goal, similar to the WNBA, is to grow the women's game that way. So, you could imagine down the line, why couldn't there be a women Cubs team, a Yankees team, a Red Sox team, and you start to grow the fan base of women in baseball by giving them more opportunities.
When I started out in radio in the 70s, they had radio in the 70s, Rachel? I guess they did. With Marconi I was working for. But my first client was Round Table Pizza that sponsored World Team Tennis.
Oh, wow.
On the radio. So you can imagine. Deep left.
Ah.
Coming back. So it was not really exciting. But I remember I met Billie Jean King when I was involved in that. And what a marvelous lady. And reading your press release, you guys have obviously gotten to know her well. But her original love in athletics was baseball, not tennis.
Yeah, she told a great story. She also did a wonderful essay for the book, and she tells the story of how she went to her first baseball game, and she was so excited to go, and then her excitement went to sadness pretty quickly when she looked on the field, and she realized that she'll never be able to be a baseball player because she's a girl.
Yeah.
And, well, it worked out well for Billie Jean, of course, being the best tennis player in the world. But, even more than being one of the legendary tennis players of all time for women's tennis, her advocacy for gender equality and for women's sports is really surpasses that. And her involvement in the project, when we asked her, Jeff and I met with her, and it took her about 3 seconds to say yes. And it's not just lending her name. She jumped right into this project and really wants to help, really wants to move the needle for these women. And it's really just, the work that she's doing in many sports and for women's sports overall is quite admirable. And, we're just honored that she took this role on for us.
Now, you're working with, is it Bud Selig's daughter, the ex-commissioner?
Yeah, Wendy Selig-Priebe is Bud's daughter, the commissioner emeritus, I think is what they call him, and they'll be calling you the Jazz Standard emeritus one day when Rachel.
Before you know it, probably.
That's a long ways away, and that's a plug for Rachel, a shameless plug. But moving right along, it's her involvement is profound as well. She loves what's going on with women's sports. She's heavily involved in helping growing the soccer league in the U.S. And this is someone who was president, chairman, and CEO of the Brewers when there were no other women. So having Wendy's involvement, her energy, her enthusiasm, and her knowledge and thinking is a big bonus for grassroots baseball.
Well, and you talk about one of the great names, influential names in the history of the sport. You're working with a descendant of Wrigley as well, right?
Yeah, Misty Wrigley, grandfather started the AAGPBL, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. So back in the 50s, in the 40s rather, when men went off to war during World War II, Philip Wrigley said, well, we need to keep baseball going, and he sent his scouts out around the country to take women's softball players and convert them to baseball players, and that's when the first women's professional baseball league started during that time. And so it was Misty's grandfather who started the AAGPBL, Philip Wrigley. And Misty is an Olympic athlete as well. She's in equestrian, and so she really understands what it's like to be an athlete at the very top level, and her passion for not only the AAGPBL and what they did, but trying to move the game forward for women is also, we have three powerful women who are passionate about the subject and who really just want to move the needle forward for them.
Well, now with your first book and then the Route 66, which you guys could be described, as Chuck Berry would say, as you move around like a wayward summer breeze. You're on 7 continents. I mean, must have been. I want you each to give me a story that you're particularly moved by in dealing with one of these women.
I mean, I have so many stories that revolve around Uganda. People say that traveling trips like that can be life-changing, and it almost sounds cliche, but going to Uganda and just seeing, one of the poorest countries in the world, and the spirit that these women had, and how they just took us in with open arms, and were so happy to be around us, and watching 8 regions in Uganda women's baseball. And it means so much more than just what happens on the field. Baseball for them keeps them in school. It gives them programs. I mean, it just really does so much for women in a place where the firstborn woman in a family gets married off as soon as she hits maturity, just so it's one less mouth to feed.
Yeah.
And a program like this keeps her in school and slows that process down. And there's just so much that happens. And the women that we met there and the stories that came out of there are just, I mean, it took me, I'm still unpacking what happened while we were there and who we met and how it affected us.
Jeffy, you got one?
Yeah, again, like Gene, there's just so many. It's a question of where do you start. But, I think about the trip we made to Japan and our Shiro, as we call them from Japan, Ayami Sato, comes from a tiny, tiny, tiny little island in the middle, way, way down south off the southern tip of Japan. And she has emerged to become the greatest women baseball player, or one of them, in the world. She's won 6 consecutive World Cup golds, 3-time consecutive World Cup MVP. She's a dominant right-handed pitcher who's got an 0.59 lifetime World Cup ERA.
Oh.
Spin rate is comparable to Clayton Kershaw's. And to know that she comes from a tiny little island where girls don't play baseball, and she wanted to play, she persevered and made it all the way to the top, speaks volumes about what can happen if given the opportunity.
And who can take credit, Rachel? Did you catch the word Shiros?
Oh,
you
yeah.
love that?
Yeah.
Who coined that word?
I think we have to give. No, actually, it wasn't me. I definitely grabbed it when I heard it, but it was. We had a cameraman working with us. Our first round, he shoots MLB, and he's a good friend of mine. His name is Alex, and he said, I was calling them different things. He said, "Let's call them Shiros."
I love it.
That.
I just love it.
So I got to give Alex credit for that one.
I didn't even know it.
Well,
yeah. Alex said Shiros first.
the book is coming out later this month, and you're premiering the documentary between Game 2 and 3 of the World Series, correct?
Yep.
On MLB.
Airing on the MLB Network, Michael, exactly, between games 2 and 3 on that off day. The book is actually, we'll have them send out next week. SeeHerBeHer.com is where you can buy your book. Gene will sign them. And the documentary you don't want to miss, between games 2 and 3 of the World Series on the MLB Network. It's incredible.
See her, be her, and certainly evidence that dreams know no bounds. And we're delighted that you folks have picked up the gauntlet and the banner, or are running with it, because it makes such a huge difference.
So kind of you to have us on and help spread the word.
No, you're
Michael.
part
Thank
of the
you, Michael.
family.
Thank you, Rachel.
We're so glad. And Rachel, you and I should go out and throw the ball around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but don't make me chase it again.
Oh, I like it.
I don't
Well,
like it.
I
But
like
the treats.
fetch.
I like the treats.
Yeah,
They're
I mean, I
good.
brought all those treats. Come on.
Love you guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
World Series. And since you're a Mets fan, Gene, in deference to you, I'll pray for a Subway Series.
Yeah, let's do it. I love it.
Let's do it. Just take the D train out to
Thanks,
the Bronx.
guys.
Anyway,
Thank
guys,
you.
Gene Fruth, Jeff Idelson, our good buddies. See her, be her, watch it. It will be extraordinary. Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Michael, Rachel. Bye-bye.
Love those guys.
What a good group.
What an interesting idea in a documentary. And we
Super
were
cool.
talking about Billie Jean
Yeah.
realizing she could never pursue her dream.
Right.
You look out there, just men in the field. And 30 years ago, that wasn't far from where the LPGA was, or maybe 40 years ago.
Right.
But you could see this turning around, and what's happened with the WNBA. Now it's the hottest tickets in the world. We're in the middle of the WNBA playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's terrific. I'm looking forward to watching it and
exciting.
hearing more about it.
Yeah.
You
Very
are
exciting.
listening to Raising the Standards, the Internet's finest hour.
Anywhere.
Is John on the line?
Let's see. I don't have anybody on the line right
Not
now. No.
Pull a chair up. We'll talk to Kate.
Yeah,
Kate Spilletta. Pull a chair up over
Poor
here and
Kate.
lift that microphone.
Kate's like, I didn't want to
She's
do
on
this.
the ground with the Wonder Dog.
Well, she's trying to avoid this, but
Well,
okay.
that's all right. Come on over, put some headphones on. Lead singer for Tsunami Bomb. It's the punk. You guys describe yourselves as punk rock, right?
It would be punk rock, yeah.
It would be
Oh, wait.
punk rock.
Say it one more time. It would be punk rock.
It
would
would be
be
punk rock. I think that's fair. I don't understand any genres anymore. I don't know how much they mean.
And
but,
what did I want you to do? For you guys were just in Europe. What did I want you to do?
you know, I think everybody that listens to you knows you like a splash and you like something clickable. Yeah, he tried to convince us that Taylor Swift covers would be fun
it would
in front of, underground German punk fans.
normally they're
no.
if you did Taylor Swift instead of just banging their heads, they'd be banging them on the stage.
Wow.
No, I will tell you this because this is a story you'll love. The time in Germany was amazing. Every show was amazing.
Yeah.
The venue, like everybody was so wonderful, but it was also that very stereotypical, like what you'd kind of expect as you wander around Germany, including our
pits.
family that came.
Yeah.
Well, they mostly stand and stare. We were told even before we got there by all the promoters and the club owners, like, don't expect people to like sing along. This is a group that will stand and stare at you.
Oh my god.
My favorite after our last night had been an amazing show. This is the one that my cousin Alexandra opened for us. Two people came up to myself and my bassist, and they're like, we don't do this, but we have to tell you we're going to gush. And one of the gentlemen stands there and looks at my bassist, and he crosses his arm and he says, your bass playing, it pleases me.
Shut
And
up.
they apologized for being so just over
Forward and,
I'm like,
and
you know what?
overly.
We're glad it pleases you.
That's
Just calm
gosh.
down. You'll be all right.
Oh my
But they
god.
meant it so much that they were so happy. They smiled and nodded their heads. And
Yeah.
from everyone that told us, that is the best applause you can get in a German club.
Incredible.
Years ago, when I was doing stand-up, I did a thing. I did a set that just went over like a lead balloon. It was just awful, and got all done. And somebody came up and said, "Boy, that was funny." I went, "Do you
Really?
know anything about laughter?"
Oh my god.
That's
Give
like
me
that.
something, man.
That pleased me.
That pleases me.
So we've got actually on the second, your husband's coming in here, who's just produced an album.
He produced, he wrote, he performed. Every bit of this is Adam. So I'm sure you'll get a much more humble version, but I will sing his praises to the rooftops because I am just beyond impressed with the ability to do
Well,
that.
I'm sure when you keep going away on tours, he's home going, "Oh, fixer, I'll write an album. That's what I'll do."
He managed to write an entire album in the time it took us to write 3 demos. So,
That's
there's something to be
amazing.
said for putting your head down and getting the work
That's
done.
great.
But it's
Good
great.
for him.
And she hates this story, Rachel. But remember, were you in the studio the time when she was on and we played a couple of her cuts?
Yeah, I liked that
And one
time.
of them had an F-bomb.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
It was nice. It had the F-bomb, and at the end of which she goes, "Sorry, Daddy."
I like the
I
look.
know. I will finally flip the script, though. I came prepared. I'm a planner.
Yeah.
Yes,
we
you had-
said 2 songs. We picked them out, and then there was that last minute, give me another. And I was like, duh.
Oh.
And my mistake.
He misses that part of the story
Every
when
time.
he tells, and I unfortunately had forgotten.
That's see, it's
So,
perfect. I miss it,
now I'll
and Rachel
remember.
forgets
My
it.
head's
Yeah.
going, what song doesn't scream and the listeners won't reel from? Right, the one with the F-bomb. So, yes,
that's
we learned a lesson that day.
That was good.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Tsunami Bomb. You going to a studio doing an album?
It's the plan. I will be going right home from here to finish some demos and
Exciting.
hopefully finish recording before the end of the year.
Can
yeah.
you tell us the title of the album, or am I going to have to bleep it?
There will be no bleeping. There's
bleeping.
still some debate on what the final title will be, but I can tell you it's a lot of world interpretation right now, which I don't think is surprising for any musician.
Yeah.
And where we're all going with things these days.
And you're going to do the Taylor Swift cover on one of those?
Maybe one day for you, but I'd have to learn a Taylor Swift song first, and that's going to take a lot of convincing.
Anyway.
I love it.
So we got we're going to talk to John Fitzpatrick.
Great. Okay, let me see.
Any
I don't have it.
second.
Okay. You can.
He's
You
at
could use
the-
your phone if you want.
I don't need. I'll just text him.
I'll just text.
So anyway, we were saying about binging. You're not watching Bad Monkey yet on Apple?
Oh, no, I forgot about Bad Monkey. I'll put that on my list.
Bad Monkey
I will.
is great. And there's a series on Netflix called Mr. McMahon. And if you ever watch wrestling, you probably didn't watch a lot of wrestling.
No, but I'll watch
But
that.
it's fascinating, all the different themes and changes that the WWF, which is what it was originally called when McMahon started, and they had to change it to WWE.
Okay.
You know why?
No.
World Wildlife Federation. They sued them. So they had to change it to Worldwide or World Wrestling Entertainment or whatever it is.
Interesting. Okay.
And by the way, he's worth $2.3 billion.
Holy moly. Okay,
So-
Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, and it's fascinating.
Okay.
But, if you're into that stuff,
Did you watch Chimp Nation yet? Is that what it's called?
No, you told me
Chimp
about Chimp
Crazy?
Nation.
No, Chimp Crazy. That's what it's called. Chimp Crazy. A little sad, but interesting. I mean, these are people that and it's crazy too because chimps they're so similar to humans in a way.
They are.
So people can kind of
they're
they
hop,
can throw
skip,
a
and a chromosome away.
Oh yeah, I mean if you're little unhinged, you could throw a diaper on that chimp and walk around with it like it's your baby.
Yes, but
And then they turn like 5 years old,
Yeah.
and things shift. There was.
What's the baboon? Remember the baboon
Oh,
that
yeah.
took the woman's face off?
I was reading, so I read a story about it, and one of the producers, or one of the people who put the film together, said their production crew is less afraid of being in a room with an adult tiger than with a chimp because adult tigers are pretty, they kind of know what's up.
And they get full.
And and chimpanzees are just not. They're not as consistent.
Yeah.
Just a little different, so.
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
It's a reason they call them wild animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just read that case.
It's like negotiating with a snake.
Oh my God.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
Oh
You
my
okay?
God. Well, do you remember the story? So we just read this case in my criminal law class this week. That story from San Francisco with that woman, Diane Whipple, who
Yeah.
was in the apartment building, and the two dogs, they had those two kind of like protection dogs.
Yeah, like
that,
pit bulls or something.
Yes, and
yeah.
the attorney, her neighbor was an attorney and was holding the two dogs for some guy who was in prison, and they got out, they got away from her, and they killed this woman. And she had been afraid for months about these dogs hurting her. She'd already been bitten. They'd had 30 incidents in the building
Really?
before these dogs killed her. They'd already been seen very out of control. She had 80 either punctures or lacerations on her
Ooh.
body from these two dogs. And the person who was handling the dogs at the time, it was I think the wife, that person didn't check on her, didn't call the ambulance, didn't do anything. A neighbor took care of it. So it was very it's pretty scary. Yeah, still nothing yet.
Well, we're waiting to hear from
I'm
John
keeping an eye.
Fitzpatrick. I'll tell you what. We'll
Keeping an eye.
let's do liner.
Little
notes.
liner. Okay, let's do
liner,
it.
And then we'll get to him hopefully on the other side of it. So the other day I run into this fellow who says, I like your column, liner notes, but you're really not a music critic. You play very little new material. It's like it's an oldies show just based on your past and what you like. Needless to say, my response was arousing. You think? Yes, of course I'm not a music critic, nor am I an expert on the culture. I'm just an observer who over the years has been there and heard that. In short, I know what I like. Songs that are wrapped in memories and fairly dripping with warmth. Such a tune from the mid-'70s, during my time of running the legendary KPEN-FM, was The Year of the Cat by Al Stewart. Now, if you didn't listen to the station, it was what was called a Triple Z format. One of the country's first, in fact. Artists like Ricky Lee Jones, Jerry Rafferty, Chuck Mangione, Cat Stevens, Randy Crawford, to name a few. Yeah, your basic, very hip FM format. On a morning from a Bogart movie in a country where they turn back time, you go strolling through the crowd like Peter Lorre contemplating a crime. Now that's cool. It was a cool time, and it was long ago, but that doesn't make it any less special to many of us. She comes out of the sun in a silk dress, running like a watercolor in the rain. Don't bother asking for explanations. She'll just tell you that she came in the year of the cat. So take it from this non-critical, non-judgmental, aging music fan, and I suggest to quote Dick Clark, you rock, roll, and remember. Enjoy.
goes strolling through the crowd like Peter Laura contemplating a crime. She comes out of the sun in a silk dress, running like a watercolor in the rain. Don't bother asking for explanation, she'll just tell you that she came in the year of the cat. Give you time for questions as she locks up your arm in hers, and you follow till your sense of which direction completely disappears. By the blue tiled walls near the market stalls, there's a hidden door she leads you to. These days, she says, I feel my life just like a river running through the year of the cat. While she looks at you so coolly, and her eyes shine like the moon and the sea. She comes in incense and patchouli, so you take her to find what's waiting inside the year of the cat. And the tourists are gone, and you've thrown away your choice and lost your ticket, so you have to stay on. But the drumbeat strains of the night remain, and the rhythm of the newborn day. You know, sometime you're bound to leave her, but for now you're gonna stay in the year of the cat.
Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat. I like that.
I love that.
That's a nice sound.
I think your guy's going to like that.
You think John Fitzpatrick might like that?
I think he might.
With us on the line, another old friend and a regular here on the air with us, John Fitzpatrick from the Eliza Jane Hotel in New Orleans. Hello, John.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
Well, we're fine. We're glad you found a telephone.
Yeah, we had a couple of technical issues trying to reach you. As we had some phone issues here, but I finally made it through. Well, it is a crazy weekend here. Crazy.
Now, what's happening in New Orleans this weekend?
Well, there's no one big event. There are a few small festivals going on, but of course the Saints are playing in the Dome, and every time the Saints have a home game, people travel to come to see them.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like I was in Las Vegas is interesting, and at the time, the Washington Redskins were playing the Raiders, and I was talking to a Raider fan. He made a very good point. He said, and he asked a lady that was in a Redskin jersey. He says, "If this game had been in Oakland, would you have come?" She goes, "No," and he says, "There's the problem. We have no home field advantage." You know, half of it is always the other team coming in, and I bet that's very similar to your situation.
It is. A lot of people will travel to New Orleans to see a game. They spend the weekend here. They enjoy, the Bourbon Street stuff, French Quarter, the dining, all of that. So it's all a giant package. Yeah.
Well, one of the other things they can enjoy, and I must tell you, since we've last spoken, I've had 4 or 5 listeners call me and tell me how marvelous your venue is, the Eliza Jane Hotel. Talk to me a little bit about it.
It's a beautiful, beautiful hotel that is made up of 10 different 19th century warehouses, all joined together, cleaned up, given some paint, and furnished wonderfully with a great bar and a restaurant. One of the prettiest places in town. We host a lot of photo shoots.
Now, for folks that know New Orleans and the layout, you're located, like a hop, skip, and a hurricane from Bourbon Street.
Well, yeah, we're very close. We're just slightly out of the French Quarter, just a few minutes walk from Canal Street. We're very close.
And it's also something else we speak about every time I get back from New Orleans. One of my very favorite places, the World War II Museum. You are minutes and walking distance from that as well.
Yeah, just about 10 to 12 minutes away, right up the street.
I bet you're also...
all the other museums.
What's that?
And all the other museums around there. There's several.
Yeah, another great spot is the Art Museum in New Orleans that has a 10-acre sculpture garden, which is free, by the way.
Sculpture garden.
What a lovely stroll free. That is.
Yeah, I love Sculpture Garden. I think it's a place that I recommend to all my guests. It's beautiful. It's unique because all of this world-class art is set up underneath these towering evergreen oak trees, and it's just beautiful.
And you talk about
free, like you said.
Exactly. And you talk about world-class art. Obviously, from a jazz standpoint, it's world-class music. And we've alluded to the fact before that the marvelous thing is there are so many great musicians in New Orleans that they're playing gigs at happy hours at different clubs and restaurants throughout the city all the time.
Correct, especially, of course, down on Frenchman Street. I think a lot of people know about that. Your listeners, I'm sure, do. Mm-hmm. But there's also other places. There's like Uptown on the Maple Leaf and Chickawawa and Canal. So there's all these great clubs everywhere in the city. We have
stayed in New Orleans. We're looking forward to seeing your place in December. But it's always a great time of year with everything happening at the cathedral. And everywhere you turn, and you have to be careful where you turn, you get trampled by a float. But there are Christmas parades everywhere, and the city is all decked out, and it really is a joy. And nothing against Mardi Gras, but I remember I had an Uber driver who described Mardi Gras as, think of a human anthill. And I said, well, but that time of year, this time of year, it's comfortable. You walk around Bourbon Street, there's not a lot of crowds, and it's just a great stay.
Right. Now, our Halloween is becoming bigger and bigger. Yeah. This month, we have the big Halloween parade next weekend, and then, of course, there is something that's kind of overshadowing everything this year, and that is Taylor Swift playing the Superdome for 3 consecutive nights.
Oh, when's that coming up?
The 25th, 26th, 27th. It's going to be like a mini Mardi Gras around here.
Now, can you get tickets to that?
They can be got.
Well, being a concierge, I mean, obviously you get requests for that, but there is a way. I'm not asking for them, but there's a way to get them.
There are people. Well, people aren't.
There are people. I know a guy who knows a guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this. I always tell my guests, please go through established sources to get your tickets because you don't want to get scammed. And unfortunately, every time there's a big event, scammers follow.
Well, you have been described on this show and by so many people that I know from New Orleans as Mr. New Orleans. You know all about it, and you have worked at several properties throughout the French Quarter. Tell me what's so special about the Eliza Jane.
Number one, it's the history behind it. Eliza Jane Nicholson was the first woman to manage a major newspaper in the United States. It's named for her, and this was her office, and this was the printing press area. And so it's a part of the fabric of the history of New Orleans. The Daily Picayune still survives today as our newspaper, the Times-Picayune. That's a big part of it. Number two, we're really where you want to be, just outside the French Quarter, away from the noise at night, but you can go easily, step right into the quarter for anything that you'd like, and we're close to all the streetcar lines.
Yeah.
So it's a great location.
No, noise is a little bit like Las Vegas. It's a nice thing to leave on occasion.
Correct. And I worked in the quarter, and unfortunately, if you're in the quarter, you're going to get noise, whereas here it's not too bad in the Central Business District. So it's a good place to be able to escape to.
I'll tell you what, we were talking about Bourbon Street itself, Jackson Square, and the World War II Museum. Your and the lovely and talented Mrs. Jacoby's favorite bakery is a strong. What's the name of it? IU? Is that what it's called?
IU, right down the street from my house. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, just amazing. Wonderful, wonderful food. Go ahead.
Great place. I was going to say, I think it was Bon Appetit magazine named it one of America's hot new bakeries just a few months ago.
Well, if you have not been to New Orleans, and you know, Rachel, I'm going to say, as always, you need to go.
Absolutely.
And, you need to come see John.
I agree.
My daughter's here, as a matter of fact. Kate, you've been to New Orleans. Yep.
There you go.
You raised a radio daughter who's nodding right now on the air.
Oh, my God, he's so snarky.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Very good.
But it
Living
is
her life.
One of the, we talk about the holidays. Tell the thing, and I hope to do it this year since we'll be there on a Friday. Tell the wonderful tradition of the Galatois, the wonderful restaurant that's been around so long, does during the holidays.
Well, let's see. At Galatois, they've got the special, and they're not dealing with the Réveillon dinners. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I was talking about the auction. Isn't?
That's for Mardi Gras.
Oh, I thought they did a holiday auction too around Christmas.
I think they started doing one, but it's certainly not nearly as big as the big one. But Galatois, if anybody doesn't know, famous Creole restaurant, and it's on Bourbon Street. But to be fair to them, they were there in 1905 before any of the bars were.
Yeah.
So what they do is for big special occasions, they have an auction. And what that means is you show up there and you pay some money and you get some champagne and you get a paddle, and they auction off the tables. And it is a big deal. People pay a lot of money to sit at Galatois for certain occasions, and it's huge.
Yeah, and
then you spend the whole day there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's certainly a place to spend the day and a few nights as well. It is. It's such a fun town, place. And it's as you say, it's Bourbon Street is wonderful. But when you want to get away from the noise and maybe get yourself a little culture instead of dulling it and forgetting it, the Eliza Jane is right in the middle where you want to be, away from the noise, close to the artwork. And close to the marvelous things. Well, John, it's always a joy to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing you, buddy. We'll go.
Yes, me too. It'll be great. It'll be a wonderful time.
Whose turn is it to buy lunch? Is it mine or your turn this year?
Good question.
I think it might be mine.
It might be. All right. Well,
we'll figure it out.
That's true. I hope that they have. You have oysters with the rack of lamb, sir? Yes. And is there a brandy list? John Fitzpatrick from the Eliza Jane. Yes. Thank you, brother.
You're very welcome, sir. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Rachel, you need to go.
I would love to go.
Kate,
Kate's been.
Look, Kate's put your microphone up.
Kate's been. She makes you proud.
I didn't know. The mic on, the mic off. We're here. We're doing the thing.
What, as a singer, you ever say, is the mic off? Yeah, I don't think so.
You learn to turn it off when you need it off.
Yeah, listen, you've pleased us being here, by the way.
You've pleased us by being
You're
here.
not speaking. It pleases me.
Oh, it pleases me.
Your speaking pleases us too.
Anyway, have we stalled long enough?
You've got like another minute.
Did you hear Trump the other day?
Oh,
no.
Oh, I know I haven't talked Trump in a while, but Trump was speaking before the downtown Detroit club.
Okay.
And he opened by saying what bad shape the country was in.
Okay.
And it's pretty soon the country is going to be as bad as Detroit. And I went, do you know where you are?
Wow.
I mean, fine. Look. And the mayor said, I hope you never come back, and you will pay for this. But during the golf tournament, Jacoby 44, I have this new friend. She and her husband, who belong to Crazy Horse, played in the tournament for the first time, and she has this huge Trump flag that she flies off the back of her golf cart in the morning.
Oh, interesting.
And so we were having the dinner, which is, needless to say, a bit politically incorrect.
Okay.
And I welcomed her and her husband, said we were delighted that she was there, and I know that you always fly that huge Trump flag, and I had two questions for you. And she said, what's that? And I said, well, one, where can I get one? And she told me, and then I kind of changed the subject, and she said, wait a minute, what was your other question? And I said, is it flammable? Well, they're still playing next year.
Oh,
anyway.
man.
I wonder who Jacoby's voting for.
Wow.
Anyway.
Mystery.
All right, next week we're off Jazz at the Ranch. Please come. It's for a marvelous cause for the mental health and arts programs at Rancho Cielo. Friday night, Chris Kane on the Monterey Regional Jazz Combo opening up for him. Saturday, Nicholas Beard with Full Spectrum Jazz, a great 18-piece orchestra and a marvelous vocalist, followed by our buddy Sarah McKenzie, who will, as a matter of fact, they're just moved to San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
Burkhart took a job with the SF Jazz.
Oh, cool.
And then Saturday, the Latin Jazz Collective with John Neva and, yes, the real deal, celebrating 50 years in the rock and roll business, Los Lobos.
Exciting.
Rancho Cielo, YC.org. As always, this show has been for Georgianne, for Mark, and for you. So a week from Saturday, and I promise you we may actually do a couple of weeks in a row after that, until we raise the standards once again. I'm Jacoby. I'll see you soon.
If you should take